I always thought I would remember my wedding day as the happiest day of my life. You know, the kind of day where everything finally makes sense. The kind of day where you take a deep breath and think, this is it. My life finally worked out. Instead, the morning began with a strange heaviness in my chest, like something deep inside me already knew something was wrong. But I ignored it. I told myself it was just nerves, just excitement, just the fear every groom feels. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie for the 10th time, my hands shaking a little. Relax, Ian, I whispered to my reflection. She chose you. She loves you. I tried to smile, but it didn't look right. My eyes betrayed me, they looked uncertain, almost scared. Still, I kept pushing the fear down. I thought of Alina instead, the girl who walked into my life when I least expected it. The girl who smiled at me like she could see straight through my walls. The girl who made me feel like I was worthy of being loved, even when I didn't believe it myself. The memory hit me hard. I saw her again the way she looked the first time we met, hair tied in a messy ponytail, soft laughter, warm eyes. She was standing in the rain that day, holding a broken umbrella, water dripping from her eyelashes. I had offered her mine, and she had laughed, saying, "It's okay. I like the rain. It washes away bad memories." That line, it stuck with me for months. Being with her made me forget the loneliness I carried for most of my life. She made me feel alive again. She made me feel like I had a home. And today, she was supposed to become my home officially. I closed my eyes and pictured her walking toward me in her wedding dress, smiling shyly, hands trembling the way they always did when she was nervous. She would make a small joke to lighten the tension. I would hold her hand tightly. We would promise forever. That was the plan. That was the dream. But dreams don't always survive reality. A loud knock snapped me out of my thoughts. I turned around, expecting my mother, maybe Zara, maybe even Alina. Someone coming to tell me it was time. Someone coming to smile at me, tease me, or bless me. Instead, the door opened slowly, and Alina's father, Uncle Cameron, stepped inside. His face was pale. His eyes were cold. And he looked like he had aged 10 years in the last hour. "Uncle? Is everything okay?" I asked, trying hard to keep my voice steady. He opened his mouth but didn't speak. His hands trembled. My heartbeat quickened. "Uncle, where is Alina?" He closed the door behind him and slid a small folded paper onto the table. A note. My stomach turned. "What is this?" I asked. "Read it," he said quietly. His voice didn't sound like his own. I reached for the paper, but for some reason, I couldn't open it. My fingers felt numb. My mind was already screaming the answer I didn't want to face. "Where is she?" I whispered, barely able to push the words out. He stared at me, guilt written all over his face, and then he finally said the words that shattered my world in one breath. "She's gone, Ian." I blinked. "Gone? What do you mean gone? Gone where?" "She left. Right before the ceremony. She said she can't do this." The room spun. For a second I thought I was going to fall, but my knees somehow held me up. "No," I muttered. "No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't do that. Not today. Not like this." "She left a note," he said, pointing to the paper again. I didn't want to touch it, but I forced myself. My hands shook as I opened it. Her handwriting hit me like a punch. Short sentences. Cold words. No emotion. No apology. I'm sorry. I can't do this. I don't want this life. I don't want a simple life. Please don't look for me. My chest tightened so hard it felt like someone was squeezing my heart with both hands. I reread the note 3, 4, 5 times, hoping I was misunderstanding something, hoping there was some hidden meaning. But there wasn't. She left me. Not after a fight. Not with an explanation. Not with a tear-filled goodbye. She left me on our wedding day. The door opened again, and this time Zara walked in. Her face looked broken too, as if she had been crying. Ian, she whispered, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I couldn't look at her. My throat was too tight to speak. Voices started rising outside the room, guests whispering, cameras clicking, reporters asking questions. My humiliation grew louder with every sound. Did the bride run away? Was there a fight? Did he pressure her? Maybe he wasn't good enough. Every whisper felt like a knife stabbing deeper into my back. My hands clenched into fists. I couldn't breathe. I felt Zara touch my arm gently, trying to comfort me, but I couldn't move. I couldn't react. I couldn't even blink. Then Raza walked in. My best friend. At least, that's what I used to think he was. He rushed toward me with a fake expression of shock on his face. Ian. Bro, are you okay? I heard. He hugged me before I could say anything. But even through the pain, something felt wrong. His grip was too tight. His voice too dramatic. His eyes didn't show sadness. They showed satisfaction. But I didn't realize fully at that moment. My mind was too broken to process anything clearly. He patted my back too many times. Just breathe, man. It's not your fault. These things happen. I pulled back, staring at him. Raza, did you know about this? He froze for a split second, just a little, but I noticed it. His eyes flickered. His jaw tightened. Then he forced a smile. Of course not, man. Why would I? I didn't answer. I didn't even trust myself to speak. I looked down at Alina's note again. The writing blurred as tears finally spilled from my eyes. Zara whispered, Ian, please sit down. You're shaking. I sat on the edge of a chair, staring at the floor, my vision spinning. My breath came shallow and uneven. I felt like my entire chest was caving in. Outside, the music stopped. Guests were leaving. Reporters were taking photos of the empty wedding stage. The wedding stage, the stage where I was supposed to begin a new life, the stage where I wanted to hold her hand, the stage where I wanted to become her husband. Now it stood empty, mocking me. I walked toward the door slowly, almost mechanically. Zara tried to stop me, but I stepped past her. I didn't say a word. I walked down the hallway, my heart pounding painfully, and then I saw it, the stage. Decorated with flowers. Covered in lights. Built for a future that no longer existed. I stood there for a long time, unable to move. Unable to cry anymore. Unable to speak. It felt like the whole world had gone silent. My heart didn't break slowly. It shattered all at once. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know how to breathe. I don't remember how long I stood in front of that empty stage. Time didn't move the way it normally does. Seconds felt like hours. My heart felt too loud in my chest, beating like it was trying to escape. My throat was so tight it hurt to breathe. Someone touched my shoulder. I expected Zara's soft voice again, but instead it was my mother. Ayan, come here, she whispered, her voice already breaking. She wrapped her arms around me and pulled me close to her chest, like I was a child again. And for a moment, I let myself collapse into her embrace. I let my body shake against hers. I let the tears come again because I didn't know where else to put them. It's okay, Ayan. Let it out, she said, stroking my hair the way she used to when I was younger. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. I stepped back and wiped my face with my sleeve, trying to look composed even though everything inside me felt shattered. Mom, she left, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I know, she replied softly, her eyes filling with tears. I don't understand, I said, staring at the note again. I don't understand why she did this. My mother took the note from my shaking hands and read it slowly. Her brows furrowed deeper with each line. This isn't your fault, she said, placing the note on the table. But the words felt heavy in my chest. My fault or not, I was the one standing alone in front of a ruined wedding. My mother guided me to a chair, but before I could sit, the door swung open. A loud click of cameras followed. A reporter had pushed past security and snapped a picture. Ayan. Is it true the bride ran away? Did you force her to marry you? My mother stepped in front of me immediately. Get out, she shouted, surprising even me. Security rushed in and dragged the reporter away, but the damage was already done. The scandal had exploded. I felt sick. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to tear the note apart and pretend none of this ever happened. But I couldn't escape it. I sat down slowly, my hands trembling uncontrollably. Zara entered again, this time with a glass of water. Ayan, you need to drink this, she said gently. I didn't trust myself to speak, so I just nodded and took the glass. My grip was so weak the water sloshed to the rim. Zara sat beside me, leaving enough space to respect my pain. Her eyes were red from crying too, but she didn't make it about herself. She didn't try to explain anything. She didn't apologize on her sister's behalf. She just stayed near me quietly. That silence, it was strangely comforting. After a few minutes, she asked in a soft voice, "Do you want me to tell everyone to leave?" I shook my head. No. Let them go on their own. They will talk anyway. She nodded, understanding the bitterness beneath my words. I leaned back in the chair and finally spoke. Do you know how long I waited for her? How much I loved her? Zara looked down. Yes. I do. Then why would she do this? My voice cracked again. Zara hesitated, then said, I don't think she planned to hurt you, but she was confused. She kept changing her mind these past months. My eyes snapped to her. What do you mean? She swallowed hard. She was not sure about marriage. She said she wasn't ready. She said she wanted something else. Something bigger. Bigger? I repeated, my heart stinging. Was I not enough? Zara quickly shook her head. No, Ayan. It's not like that. Alina, she's different. She wants everything to be perfect. She wants luxury, fame, attention. She wants the world to admire her. And she felt scared she wouldn't get that with you. Her words stabbed me in a way I wasn't prepared for. So it's because I'm not rich? I asked, a bitter laugh slipping out. Zara didn't answer, and that silence was all the confirmation I needed. I closed my eyes, feeling the humiliation all over again. I would have given her everything. Maybe not instantly, but I would have worked for it, for her. I know, Zara whispered. And that's what makes this so unfair. Before I could reply, the door burst open again. Raza walked in, acting like he owned the place. His voice was loud, fake sympathetic, and full of unnecessary drama. Bro. I heard the reporters already posted about this. It's trending everywhere, he said with too much excitement. Zara glared at him. Raza, can you please shut up? He ignored her. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but people get dumped all the time, he added carelessly. You'll get over it. I stared at him, something cold settling in my chest. Get over it? I repeated, my voice low. Raza blinked, taken aback for a moment. Yeah, man. I mean, come on, she left. That's life. That's life? I said again, louder this time. My mother stepped forward. Raza, enough. Leave him alone. He snorted and shrugged. Fine. I'm just trying to help. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. Honestly, Ian, maybe she realized you weren't the right match for her. It happens. He said it with such a careless smirk that I felt something inside me crack open again. I stood up slowly, fists clenched. Raza, did you know she was planning this? His eyes widened dramatically. Too dramatically. What? No. Why would you even ask that? Because your reaction doesn't match the situation. Because you're enjoying this too much. Because you didn't look surprised. But I didn't say any of that out loud. Not yet. Instead, I just stared at him until he got uncomfortable and looked away. I don't need your help, I said quietly. Leave. Raza scoffed but didn't argue. He walked out, muttering, fine. Be like that. The moment he left, the air felt cleaner. Zara sat beside me again. I'm really sorry, Ian. I wish I could explain her actions, but I can't. I don't understand them either. My throat felt tight again. I just need to know one thing, did she love me? Even a little? Zara's eyes softened with pity. She placed her hand gently on mine. Yes. She did. But she loved herself more. That answer hurt more than anything else she could have said. I looked down at the note again. The letters blurred before my eyes. My mother leaned down and kissed my forehead. Ian, come with me. You need to rest. You need to breathe. I nodded slowly. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to stand. As we walked out of the room, every gaze from the guests felt like arrows piercing through my skin. Some looked shocked. Others looked amused. A few looked sympathetic, but I didn't want sympathy. I wanted answers. I wanted reasons. I wanted Alina. But all I had was the note in my pocket and a hole in my chest where my future used to be. When we stepped outside into the cool evening air, I felt a cold breeze hit my face. It wasn't comforting, it just reminded me that everything inside me felt frozen. I stopped walking. My mother turned to me. Ian? I'm fine, I lied. But I wasn't fine. I was drowning. I looked back at the hall one last time, at the decorations, at the lights, at the place where my life fell apart. I whispered to myself, why, Alina? Why today? The sky didn't answer me. The world didn't pause. Life didn't rewind. I walked to the car slowly, each step heavier than the last. And for the first time that day, I realized something truly terrifying. The pain wasn't fading. It was just beginning. The day after the wedding disaster, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing relentlessly. Notifications, messages, missed calls, all from people I barely knew, people I thought would respect my pain, even strangers. The screen was full of headlines. Bride abandons groom at the altar. Alina calls off wedding, mystery man leaves alone. Ian left humiliated as fiancé walks away. I couldn't bring myself to read the articles fully. My hands shook, my chest felt hollow, and my stomach churned. It wasn't just humiliation. It was a deep, twisting ache that felt like it would never leave me. Then came the messages. Why didn't you stop her? You forced her to marry you. She deserves better than someone like you. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How could words from people who didn't know the truth feel like knives slicing my skin? My mother sat beside me silently, holding my hand. Her touch grounded me, but the cold, bitter reality didn't go away. They don't know the story, she said softly. People like to judge before they understand. I wanted to shout, to tell them everything, to defend myself, but my voice felt gone. I threw my phone onto the bed and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. That was when Raza called. Hey, bro, you awake? I ignored it. He texted a few more times, each one dripping with fake concern. I can't believe it happened. You okay? Need me to come by? I felt a cold weight in my stomach. Something about his tone didn't sit right. Later that day, I confronted him in person. I couldn't take the waiting and the silence anymore. Raza, I said, my voice low and sharp. Did you know about this? He blinked, a little too fast. What? No. Of course not. Why would I? But his eyes, they didn't lie. There was a flicker there, something I didn't like. I shook my head, frustration bubbling inside me. People say things, Raza. And things are being said about me. Did you help make any of that happen? He hesitated. Too long. No. Ian. I swear. I'm your friend. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to hold on to the idea that my best friend wouldn't betray me. But that flicker in his eyes said otherwise. I left him there, muttering excuses, and walked away before I could do something I'd regret. By evening, I was forced to face Alina's world. Her friends, Farah in particular, were already spinning lies about me. She's young, Farah said with a sly smile when she saw me. She's scared. You know how women are, they get cold feet. She's just trying to protect herself. Protect herself? Protect herself from me? I felt my stomach twist. I wanted to scream, to throw the first thing I could grab, but I stayed silent. My anger was boiling, but I needed clarity first. I went home, exhausted, empty, and confused. My thoughts kept looping, spinning faster than I could catch them. I remembered the small moments, Alina smiling at me at the park, holding my hand during our first dinner together, whispering my name at night. She had made me feel alive, and now every memory felt like a trap, mocking me. Late that night, I received a message from Zara. Ian. I think you deserve the truth. Meet me. Please. I hesitated. Could I face her after everything? Could I trust anyone now? But something in her message, its calmness, its honesty, pulled me in. We met in a quiet cafe, a place where we used to come for family dinners before Alina became distant. Zara slid into the booth across from me, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. Ian, she said softly. I wanted to tell you something. You deserve to know the truth. I leaned back, my chest tight. I don't even know if I can handle it, Zara. Every truth I hear these days feels like a knife in my heart. She nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. I know. But you need it. Alina, she didn't just run away at the last minute. She planned it for weeks. I felt my stomach drop. Weeks? Yes. Farah, her so-called best friend, pushed her into it. She promised Alina wealth, luxury, a life she thought was better than ours. Alina, she believed her. And Raza, he helped her hide everything. He knew she was planning to leave. I couldn't breathe. Raza. My voice trembled. My best friend helped her betray me? Zara nodded, her expression solemn. I'm sorry, Ayan. I didn't know how to tell you before. I wanted to protect you. But you need to know everything if you want to move forward. I felt my hands shake. Rage, disbelief, betrayal, all of it mixed into one unbearable wave. I wanted to punch something. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break Raza into pieces. But instead, I stayed quiet. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I whispered. I didn't know how, she said. I thought, maybe you'd find out yourself. Maybe it was better this way. Better? Nothing about this was better. I buried my face in my hands. I can't believe it. I can't believe any of it. The lies, the whispers. I thought I knew everything. I thought I could trust people. I was wrong. Zara reached across the table and placed her hand on mine. Ayan, you will get through this. You're stronger than you think. I've seen you handle hard times before. This is just another test. A test? I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. I wanted to throw my chair through the wall. I loved her, Zara, I whispered. I gave her everything. And she didn't care. She didn't even look back. I know, she said. And it's not your fault. She chose her path, and Raza and Farah helped make it possible. You're the one who didn't falter. You stayed true. Her words barely registered. All I could feel was the emptiness inside me, a hollow place that used to be full of hope and love. As we sat there, silence stretching between us, I realized something terrifying. I had been betrayed in more ways than one. Not just by Alina, but by people I considered my closest allies. People who smiled at me, laughed with me, and held my trust like it was unbreakable. And yet, they shattered it without a second thought. That night, I walked home alone. The streets were empty, but my mind was not. I replayed every conversation, every smile, every whispered word. I tried to see the cracks I had missed, the signs I should have noticed. But every memory now felt tainted. I stopped in front of my apartment building and stared up at the night sky. The stars were out, bright and cold. And I thought of Alina, somewhere out there, living the life she had dreamed of. And I hated her. I hated her with a depth I didn't know existed. But beneath the hate, something else stirred, a seed of fire. I wouldn't let this destroy me. I couldn't. Not yet. I clenched my fists and whispered into the night, I swear. I will find a way to survive this. And one day, karma will find its way to them. The city lights flickered, but the fire inside me burned brighter. The next morning, I didn't even want to wake up. My body felt like it had aged 10 years overnight, and my mind was a whirlwind of betrayal, anger, and disbelief. Every memory of Alina burned inside me, her laughter, the warmth of her hand, the way her hair fell across her face when she smiled. But now, all of it felt poisoned. Zara had insisted we meet again. She said she had more to tell me, more truth that would finally let me understand everything. I was hesitant. I wasn't sure I wanted answers. But some part of me knew I had to face them. We met at the quiet park near her apartment, the same place where she had comforted me after small arguments years ago. The sun was low, painting everything in shades of gold and gray. "Sit," she said softly, pointing to a bench. Her voice was calm, grounded, unlike the storm inside me. I sat, staring at the ground. "Zara, I don't know if I can handle more truth." "You can," she replied. "You need it. You deserve it. And I owe it to you." I looked up at her, seeing the determination in her eyes. She always had this quiet strength, a steadiness I had envied in her sister. But unlike Alina, it didn't feel fake or fleeting. She took a deep breath. "Ian, I need to tell you what really happened." I braced myself. "Alina didn't just leave you because she was scared or confused. Farah, her so-called best friend, pushed her into it. She told Alina that she could do better, that she deserved more than a simple life, that you were holding her back. Alina, she believed it. She wanted more than what she thought you could give." I closed my eyes, the weight of her words pressing down. More than love? Wasn't that enough?" Zara shook her head. "Apparently not. Alina has always wanted to be admired, to be envied. She wanted a life where everyone looked at her and said, 'Wow, she made it.' And she thought you couldn't give her that." I felt bile rise in my throat. Every memory of her smiling at me, every tender touch, every whispered promise, it felt like a lie now. "And Rosa?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What about him?" She hesitated, then said quietly, "He knew. He knew she was planning to leave. And he helped cover it up." I couldn't breathe. "Helped? My best friend, helped her betray me?" Zara's eyes filled with sadness. "I'm so sorry, Ian. I didn't know how to tell you before. I thought, maybe it was better if you didn't know." "Better?" Nothing about this was better. I stood up suddenly, my hands trembling. I trusted him. I called him my brother. And he lied to me. Zara reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I should have seen it," I muttered. "The way he looked that day, the way he smiled when I was alone, the way he never seemed upset at all." "He's always been jealous of you," Zara said gently. "He's always wanted her for himself. He's dangerous in ways you didn't realize." Dangerous. The word sank into my chest like a knife. I wanted to scream, to run, to punch something, but I stayed silent. My mind was racing too fast to focus on anything. I sank back onto the bench, burying my face in my hands. The betrayal wasn't just one person, it was two, maybe more. The people I trusted the most, guiding her, pushing her, all of them working together to shatter me. "I can't believe it," I whispered. "I gave her my heart. I gave her everything. And they tore it apart." Zara didn't reply immediately. She let me sit in the storm of my thoughts for a while. Finally, she said, "Ian, I know this hurts more than anything. But you can't let it destroy you. You need to understand the truth so you can move forward. And you need to protect yourself from people like them." I raised my head slowly, looking at her. "Protect myself. From Rosa? From her?" "From both of them," Zara said firmly. "And from anyone else who might try to manipulate you. You can't change what they did. You can't make them feel what you feel. But you can choose how you respond. Her words hit me differently than anyone else's had. There was no judgment, no pity, just clarity. And in that clarity, a spark of anger began to burn, not reckless rage, but a cold, deliberate fire. I won't let them ruin me, I said quietly. Not her. Not Raza. Not anyone. Zara smiled faintly. Good. That's the Ian I know. Strong. Steadfast. And even if you don't see it now, you'll come out of this stronger than ever. I clenched my fists, feeling a strange mixture of grief and determination. The betrayal still hurt like fire in my chest, but now it carried purpose. They had underestimated me. They had thought I would crumble, that I would beg, that I would despair. But they were wrong. I need to know everything, I said. All the planning, all the lies, everything. Zara nodded. I'll tell you everything I know. But you have to promise me, you won't lose yourself to revenge. Not yet. I looked at her, the wind blowing her hair across her face, and nodded. I won't. Not yet. But I will make sure they face what they deserve. She hesitated, then placed a hand gently on my shoulder. You will, Ian. Just be careful. Anger can be a tool or a weapon that cuts the wrong person. Make sure it only cuts where it should. I felt the weight of her words sink deep. She was right. I couldn't let the fire inside me destroy me. I had to be precise. I had to be patient. I had to survive. Because if I survived, one day, they would see what they had done to the wrong person. And then, karma would find them. That night, I went home and sat in silence, staring at the walls. The city lights flickered outside my window, but I didn't move. I didn't need distractions. I just sat, letting the truth settle into my bones. Alina had left me. Raza had betrayed me. And Farah had manipulated her. But I wasn't broken. Not completely. And that was the part they didn't see. That night, I promised myself something I had never promised before. I would rise from this. I would rebuild. And when the time came, they would see what they had lost. The days after I learned the full truth were the hardest of my life. My body existed, but my mind didn't. I went through the motions, eating, showering, working, but everything felt heavy, coated in gray. I avoided my phone, avoided calls, avoided anyone who might remind me of her. But I couldn't avoid myself. Every time I closed my eyes, her note appeared in front of me. I don't want this life. I don't want a simple life. Simple life. That phrase burned into me like acid. I started walking the city streets aimlessly, letting the wind and noise hit me. Nothing could soothe the ache in my chest. I thought I might be able to escape it by keeping busy, but every corner, every street, every cafe reminded me of moments I shared with her. It was Omar, a coworker I barely knew, who finally spoke to me that week. Hey, can we talk? He asked, cautious. I looked at him through tired eyes. Why? So you can tell me how pathetic I am? He shook his head, serious. No. I've been watching you. And I know what happened. I don't know you well, but I can see it's not your fault. You deserve better, man. Let me help. I wanted to brush him off. I wanted to walk away and stay alone forever. But there was something in his sincerity, something that didn't feel fake or judgmental. I nodded slowly. All right. Let's talk. That night, I agreed to meet him for coffee. And for the first time since the wedding, I spoke about everything: Alina, Raza, Farah, the lies, the humiliation. My voice cracked, my hands trembled, but I spoke anyway. Omar listened quietly, letting me vent, letting me let it all out without interruption. "You're carrying too much alone," he said finally. "You need someone to help you carry it. Not to fix it, just to help you survive it." His words resonated more than I expected. Later that week, on Zara's suggestion, I made an appointment with Dr. Halim. I didn't believe in therapy, not really. I thought it was for people weaker than me. But I realized that surviving wasn't enough. I needed to understand how to live again. Sitting in the office, I felt raw. Vulnerable. Exposed. I didn't know how to begin, so I just let it all out in a jumble. "She left me," I whispered. "She left me on the day I was supposed to marry her. And my best friend, he helped her." Dr. Halim listened patiently, nodding. "Go on," he said softly. "Tell me everything you feel." "I feel betrayed. Angry. Humiliated. I feel like I trusted the wrong people my whole life. I feel like I'm broken inside." "You're not broken, Ayan," he said gently. "You're wounded. And wounds can heal, but only if you allow yourself to face the pain instead of running from it." I frowned. "Face it?" "I've been facing it every day. I wake up, and it's there. It doesn't go away." "True," he said. "But facing it isn't just remembering. Facing it means understanding, processing, and deciding what comes next. You can let this destroy you, or you can use it to rebuild yourself." Rebuild myself. The words sounded foreign, like a language I had forgotten. But even as I doubted them, a small spark ignited somewhere in the deepest part of me. Over the next few weeks, I followed his advice. I forced myself to eat regularly, to sleep, to exercise. I started journaling my thoughts, scribbling them down so they didn't fester inside my head. Each word on the page was a tiny act of survival. Zara came by more often during this time. She never imposed, never demanded. She just was there. Leaving small notes of encouragement, bringing food, checking in quietly. Her presence became a balm I didn't know I needed. One evening, I stood in front of the mirror for what felt like hours. I studied my reflection, really looked at it for the first time since the wedding. My face was pale, my eyes sunken, but I saw strength lurking underneath, the part of me that had survived every blow, every betrayal. I clenched my fists. "You can do this," I whispered to my reflection. "You can survive her leaving. You can survive everything they threw at you. You are not weak, and you are not broken." And for the first time, I meant it. I started making small plans. I returned to work with focus, connecting more with colleagues like Omar, who showed genuine concern. I avoided social media because I didn't want to see the world's opinions about me, about Alina, about the scandal. I began reading, learning, sharpening my mind. Each day, I felt a little lighter, a little more like myself again. One night, Zara knocked gently on my door. She handed me a cup of tea, her eyes soft. "You're doing better," she said quietly. "I can see it." I smiled faintly. "I'm surviving," I admitted. "And maybe even starting to feel a little like myself again." Her smile widened slightly. "You're stronger than you think, Ayan. And one day, you'll see just how strong." I felt a warmth I hadn't felt in months. Not the dangerous warmth of longing or betrayal, but the quiet, steady warmth of hope. That night, I sat by my window, looking out at the city. The lights flickered, the streets hummed, and I felt alive. Not fully, not yet, but enough to know that I could rebuild. Alina had broken me, yes. Raza had betrayed me. The world had mocked me. But I wasn't broken enough to stay down. I could feel it growing inside me, a fire. Not blind rage, not revenge yet, just awareness. Clarity. The knowledge that I could survive this, and I would rise. And when the time came, when I was ready, they would see the strength they had underestimated. Tonight, for the first time in weeks, I slept without the note clutched in my hand. Tonight, I allowed myself to rest. Because tomorrow, I would begin to rebuild. I hadn't intended to check on her life. I didn't care, at least, that's what I told myself. But curiosity is a cruel thing, and one night, alone with my thoughts and a restless mind, I searched. Alina. Her name brought everything back, the laughter, the warmth, the betrayal. My fingers trembled as I typed her name, expecting beauty, happiness, and perfection. Instead, I found cracks. Photos from lavish parties, glamorous vacations, yes, her life looked perfect. But I noticed her smile in candid shots. It was tight. Her eyes looked tired, strained. A few comments hinted at gossip. Alina seems distant lately. Something's off. Her sister's wedding looked amazing. I wonder why she didn't go through with hers. I felt a strange, cold satisfaction, but I quickly pushed it away. I didn't want revenge yet. Not like this. But the seed of karmic awareness had been planted. The next morning, Omar arrived with news I hadn't expected. Something's happening with Alina, he said quietly. People are talking. I raised an eyebrow. What kind of people? Gossip again? Something bigger, he replied. Her business partner just pulled out of a deal. Her social circle is turning. And, he paused. Farah, she's not as loyal as she seemed. Rumors of betrayal are spreading. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a strange mix of anticipation and dread. I wasn't happy she was suffering. Not truly. But, the universe had a way of balancing things, didn't it? Zara arrived later that evening with a notebook in hand. I did some digging, she said. I know you said you didn't want to get involved. But I thought you should see it. I didn't want to see anything. And yet, I couldn't look away. Zara opened the notebook. Inside were notes on Alina's recent actions, mismanaged projects, broken promises, arguments with Farah, and subtle hints that she was losing control. The life she thought she could have without me was already starting to unravel. She thought she could escape responsibility, Zara said quietly. She thought she could have it all without facing consequences. But every choice has a price, Ayan. And she's paying it. I felt a bitter satisfaction. It wasn't joy, it was a recognition that the world was not blind. That the lies, manipulation, and betrayal had consequences. I poured myself a cup of tea, letting the warmth fill my hands. I didn't want revenge, not yet. I just observed. I let the universe unfold the story she had written for herself. Later that week, I bumped into someone unexpected, Farah. She didn't recognize me at first. She was talking to a mutual friend, smiling brightly, her usual manipulative charm on display. But when our eyes met, something in her shifted. Recognition, fear, maybe guilt. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Just letting her see me, unbroken, composed, and aware, was enough. She smiled politely but nervously. Ayan, hi. Hello, Farah, I said evenly. I see you're thriving. Her eyes flickered. Yes, things are fine. I didn't reply. I walked away slowly, leaving her with the knowledge that I was no longer the broken man she had thought she could manipulate. Days passed, and I continued my silent observation. Alina's social circle began to whisper more aggressively. Deals fell through. Events she had planned were cancelled. Farah's ambitions clashed with hers, creating tension. And Raza. I heard through mutual acquaintances that his reputation was slipping, that people were starting to notice his envy and manipulation. It wasn't my doing. I didn't touch a thing. I didn't spread rumors. I didn't interfere. I simply lived. And watched as their perfect world cracked. One evening, Zara brought news that hit harder than I expected. They're blaming each other, she said. Alina and Farah are fighting publicly now. Friends are leaving. And Raza, he's being excluded from social projects. His influence is shrinking. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my tea, letting the truth sink in. The betrayal I had endured was not without consequences. The people who hurt me, who thought they could destroy my life without repercussions, were facing their own unraveling. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm. Detached. The fire inside me had shifted from burning rage to focused clarity. I realized something important. Revenge wasn't about ruining them. Revenge wasn't about hatred or vindictiveness. It was about surviving, rising, and letting the universe do the rest. Alina had made her choice. Raza had made his. Farah had made hers. And the world was responding naturally. I didn't need to act. I only needed to become stronger. That night, I called Omar. Keep me updated, I said quietly. Just facts. No rumors. No gossip. Of course, he replied. You're handling this very well, Ayan. I smiled faintly. I'm learning. Slowly, but I am. I went to bed that night with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. The pain of losing Alina was still there, gnawing at me, reminding me of what I had lost. But it no longer consumed me entirely. Instead, I focused on myself. My growth. My future. My path forward. I didn't know what the next chapter of my life would hold. But one thing was clear, I would face it unbroken, unafraid, and ready for whatever came next. And one day, when the time was right, the people who betrayed me would see the strength they had underestimated. Their perfect world was cracking. And mine was just beginning to rebuild. I had spent months in quiet recovery, letting the world's chaos unfold without me. Watching. Learning. Growing. The cracks in Alina's life had become fissures. Raza's envy had made him reckless. Farah's manipulations were turning back on her. But I wasn't ready to confront anyone yet, not with anger, not with revenge. I was ready to play the game. It started with small steps. Omar suggested I focus on my career, regain my confidence, rebuild my social presence, and network with people who could actually help me. It sounded mundane, but it was perfect. I needed a foundation before I could strike back. Strength first, Omar said. Then the rest falls into place. I took it seriously. I threw myself into work, handled projects with precision, and started meeting influential people in my field. I made connections, but more importantly, I rebuilt the version of myself I had almost lost, the confident, composed, capable Ayan that Alina had tried to take for granted. But life wasn't just professional. It was personal. I had to keep my guard up. One evening, Zara came over. She always had this way of making a room feel calm, her presence steadying me. She poured tea, sat across from me, and watched me carefully. "You're different," she said quietly. "I see it. You're stronger." I smiled faintly. Stronger, yes. But smarter too. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm observing. Calculating. Her eyes softened. "Be careful, Ian. I know what you feel about them, but patience is key. Don't rush. Let them make mistakes, and you'll always be ahead." I nodded. She understood me better than anyone. A few weeks later, I ran into Raza at an industry event. His face lit up the moment he saw me, but there was something off, a hint of tension beneath his forced grin. "Ian." "Hey man, long time no see," he said, voice too bright, too casual. I studied him carefully. He hadn't changed, not really. But his eyes, they betrayed him. Fear? Anxiety? Both? "Raza," I said evenly. "Good to see you." He extended his hand. I ignored it. "I heard about the projects you've been taking on lately," he said. "Impressive work." "Thank you," I said quietly. "I've been focusing on what matters." He laughed nervously. "Yeah, makes sense. You've always been driven." I smiled faintly, letting him squirm in his own discomfort. Driven enough to notice mistakes. He blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. That was the first time in months I realized how much control I had regained. The fear wasn't mine anymore, it was his. But I didn't gloat. I didn't insult him. I stayed calm. Composed. Calculated. Then came Alina. I saw her at a mutual friend's gathering. She looked different. Her usual confident aura was gone, replaced by tension and uncertainty. She smiled when she saw me, but her eyes were cold, guarded. I didn't approach her. Not yet. I watched, taking notes in my mind, how she moved, how she interacted, how she subtly tried to regain control of her unraveling world. Farah was there too, looking smug, unaware that her small victories were temporary. I made a mental note. Later that evening, Omar and I met to discuss strategy, not revenge, not confrontation, just strategy. "Patience, observation, and timing," Omar said. "Let them reveal themselves. You don't have to push. You just wait." I nodded. "Let them dig their own holes. I'll just be here, ready to step in when necessary." He grinned. "Exactly. They'll do the rest for you." And they did. Over the next few months, the mistakes continued. Alina overextended herself in business deals, trying to prove she didn't need me. Farah's manipulations backfired as her own ambitions collided with reality. Raza made a critical error in a project, costing him credibility. I watched it all unfold silently. I didn't celebrate, not openly. But inside, a quiet satisfaction grew. Justice, if not exact revenge, was taking shape naturally. Then came the moment I realized something important. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was becoming the kind of man they had underestimated. Calm under pressure, focused, composed, untouchable by their petty schemes. It was power, subtle and precise. One evening, I received a message from Farah, indirect, polite, laced with a hint of unease. She wanted to meet, to discuss mutual interests. I smiled. Not because I was pleased to see her, but because she didn't know who she was dealing with anymore. I replied simply, sure. Coffee tomorrow. The next day, at the cafe, she arrived early. She looked the same, confident, calculating, but there was a flicker of anxiety in her eyes that she couldn't hide. Hello, Ian, she said, forcing a smile. It's good to see you. I studied her calmly. Farah. Good to see you too. Please, sit. She did, cautiously, as if testing the waters. I hear your life's been busy, I said evenly. Projects, events, the usual. Her smile faltered slightly. Yes, things have been challenging. I nodded. I can imagine. It must be difficult managing so many responsibilities, while keeping track of everyone who tries to manipulate you. She blinked. What do you mean? I smiled faintly, calm as glass. Oh, nothing. Just an observation. I've learned a lot about people lately. How easily they can miscalculate. Her hands tightened around her cup. I don't understand. I leaned back slightly. It's simple. The world has a way of balancing itself. Those who try to step over others sometimes find themselves underfoot. Her face paled, and for the first time I saw genuine fear. Not terror, not complete defeat, but enough to know that the power had shifted. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need threats. The game had changed. The rules were mine now. I left her with that thought and walked out of the cafe calmly, every step deliberate. That night, I sat by my window, city lights reflecting in my eyes. The fire inside me burned brighter than ever, but it was no longer raw pain. It was controlled, focused. I had survived betrayal. I had reclaimed my strength. I had let the universe do its work. And now, the game had changed. One day, the people who had tried to destroy me would see exactly who I had become. And when that day came, it wouldn't just be karma. It would be a reckoning. The day I had been preparing for, without even fully realizing it, finally arrived. It wasn't dramatic at first. No flashing cameras, no shouting. Just me walking into a high-profile event, confident, composed, controlled. The kind of presence that makes people notice you without needing to announce yourself. I saw them immediately. Alina. Farah. Raza. All in one room, unaware of the storm quietly approaching. Alina looked stunning, as always, but there was tension in her posture. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, and I could see it, the exhaustion behind her perfection, the cracks I had been watching for months finally visible to everyone. Farah was there too, trying to control the narrative, her usual confident mask slipping slightly. And Raza, he looked uneasy, scanning the room as if he sensed something. I didn't need to speak yet. The room, the energy, the subtle power of my presence, it was enough. A mutual acquaintance introduced me to a small group, and as I spoke, I could feel their eyes on me. Whispers started, small and discreet. He looks different. Stronger. Composed. Unshakable. I let it happen. Let them observe. Let them realize that I wasn't broken. That I had survived the worst they could throw at me, and now, I was untouchable. Later, Alina approached me, trying to make small talk. Ian, it's been a while, she said, her voice soft, almost hesitant. Yes, it has, I replied evenly, smiling faintly. How have you been? Her smile was forced. Busy. Things haven't been easy. I nodded, pretending to be sympathetic, but inside, I was calm, collected. I can imagine. Life tends to do that. There was a long pause. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the fear in her eyes. Not terror, not humiliation, but a recognition. Recognition that the man she thought she could discard, the man she believed would break, was no longer the same. Farah hovered nearby, glancing nervously. Raza stood back, stiff, uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. I leaned in slightly, softly, almost conspiratorially. You know, it's funny. For months, I watched your world unravel, quietly. I didn't interfere. I just observed. Alina blinked. Observed? What do you mean? I smiled, faint and controlled. Mistakes. Miscalculations. Betrayals. Life has a way of balancing itself. And it seems, it hasn't been kind to you, Farah, or Raza either. Her hand trembled slightly. Farah's confident mask slipped. Raza's face went pale. You don't understand, Alina whispered, more to herself than to me. I shook my head slowly. Oh, I understand perfectly. You all thought you could manipulate me, control me, discard me without consequence. But every lie, every betrayal, it all came back to you. She swallowed hard, trying to maintain composure. Ayan. I raised a hand gently, stopping her. No. Don't explain. I don't need your words. I don't need apologies. You made your choices. You can live with them. I will live beyond them. For the first time, I saw the weight of reality press down on her. The confidence she had always relied on, the belief that she could have anyone, do anything, and escape accountability, was gone. And I didn't gloat. I didn't shout. I didn't humiliate her. I let her feel it quietly, internally, the way I had felt for months. Farah, desperate to salvage her influence, tried to interject. Ayan, please. Let's talk later. There's no need for this now. I looked at her calmly. No, Farah. This is exactly the right time. You, Raza, Alina, you've all underestimated me. But that's done. Raza, silent until now, finally spoke, his voice low and cautious. Ayan. I didn't mean. Shoo, I said softly, cutting him off. Don't speak. You've said enough with your actions already. They all stood there, the three of them, realizing, truly realizing, that the man they tried to destroy was no longer broken, no longer dependent on their approval or affection. I had survived betrayal, humiliation, heartbreak, and emerged stronger. I didn't need revenge, because life itself had delivered it. Their plans, their manipulations, their arrogance, they had all come back to them. And I was still here. Calm, composed, unshakable. Then, quietly, I turned and walked away, leaving them to process the truth in silence. No words needed. No drama. The reckoning had already occurred, it wasn't mine to deliver, it was life's. Later that night, Zara met me at my apartment. She smiled, her eyes proud. You did it, she said softly. I poured myself a drink and nodded. Not me. Life did it. I just survived it. She laughed lightly. Survived and thrived. Look at you. You've come so far. I smiled faintly, feeling the final weight lift from my chest. Yes. I've learned something important, Zara. Revenge isn't about acting. It's about living. Being stronger. Being smarter. Letting life reveal the consequences. That is the sweetest justice of all. She nodded, her hand brushing mine. And you'll never let anyone underestimate you again. No, I said firmly. Never again. As I looked out at the city lights that night, I realized something profound. I had lost what I thought was everything: Alina, my trust in Raza, my sense of safety in the world. But I had gained something greater: clarity, resilience, and the knowledge that I could survive anything. The people who betrayed me would continue to face the consequences of their choices. And I would live beyond them, untouchable, free, and whole. The fire inside me had transformed. No longer burning in pain or rage, it was a controlled, steady flame, a power that could not be broken. And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully, knowing that the final reckoning had already occurred, and it had been perfect in its silence. The weeks after the event passed in a blur of quiet confidence and purpose. I didn't chase Alina. I didn't confront Raza or Farah. The universe had delivered what it needed to deliver. My life wasn't about them anymore, it was about me. I started taking control of every aspect of my existence. My work flourished. Projects I had once doubted myself on now succeeded beyond expectation. I traveled, exploring corners of the city I had ignored for years, meeting people who inspired me rather than drained me. Zara remained a constant presence. Her support had shifted from comfort to partnership. Not romantic, not yet, but there was a closeness, a trust one had never experienced before. We would spend hours discussing ideas, our future plans, and dreams we'd both shelved for other people. One evening, while walking through the park we had always frequented, I noticed something profound. The trees, once familiar and dull, now seemed alive. The air, crisp and cool, carried a subtle promise. For the first time since Alina walked away, I felt unburdened. Free. Zara stopped beside me, handing me a cup of tea. You've changed, Ayan, she said softly. Not just because of what happened, but because you allowed yourself to grow through it. I smiled faintly, looking at the city skyline. It's strange, I admitted. I lost everything I thought mattered, and somehow I found more. Strength, clarity, freedom. And even peace. Her eyes softened. You've earned it. I nodded, feeling it deep in my bones. The man who had been humiliated, betrayed, and broken was gone. The man standing here now had learned patience, strategy, and, most importantly, how to value himself. For the first time, I allowed myself to think about the future, about happiness not defined by anyone else's choices. Not by Alina, not by Raza, not by Farah. And then, unexpectedly, life threw a small, quiet gift my way. A new project came across my desk, one that required travel, creativity, and leadership. But it also brought me into contact with people whose energy was invigorating rather than draining. Among them was Layla, a young, ambitious professional with a sharp mind and a kind heart. She reminded me of Alina in her intelligence, but without the manipulation or self-obsession. She challenged me, encouraged me, and, slowly, made me laugh again. It wasn't love yet. Not really. But it was warmth. Connection. Something I thought I had lost forever. One evening, after finishing a successful project review, Layla and I walked along the river. The water reflected the city lights, creating a tapestry of movement and glow. You seem different, Ayan, she said casually, glancing at me. Confident. Focused. Calm. Like you're finally yourself. I looked at her and smiled. I think I am, Layla. I've finally learned something important, that happiness isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling myself, and living according to my own choices. She nodded thoughtfully. That's wise. And rare. I chuckled softly. It wasn't easy. But after everything, I realized that my peace matters more than revenge, more than pride, more than anyone else's approval. The conversation lingered between us, comfortable and unforced. I realized that for the first time in years, I could see a life ahead of me that wasn't defined by betrayal, heartbreak, or humiliation. Later that week, I received an unexpected message. From Alina. Ian. I see now what I lost. I hope you're well. I stared at the screen, my heart steady. There was no anger. No longing. Just a quiet acknowledgement. I typed a simple reply. I am. I hope you find your own peace too. And that was it. Closure, complete and silent. The next day, I met Zara for tea. She smiled knowingly when I told her about the message. It's good, she said. You're free. Truly free. I nodded, feeling the truth in her words. The chapter with Alina, Raza, and Farah was closed. Their actions had shaped me, yes, but they no longer controlled me. In the months that followed, I continued to grow. My work became a passion, my relationships became meaningful, and my mind, finally, became a place of peace rather than turmoil. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. And slowly, quietly, I allowed myself to notice the small joys I had ignored for too long. A walk in the park. Laughter shared with friends. The thrill of new challenges. And perhaps, one day, a love built on respect and honesty, not obsession or manipulation. I realized that life's betrayals, heartbreaks, and trials weren't just obstacles, they were teachers. And I had learned. I had survived. I had rebuilt. Standing by the window one evening, watching the sun dip below the skyline, I whispered to myself. This is my life now. My choices, my strength, my peace. And no one can take that away from me. A new chapter had begun. And this time, I would write it entirely on my own terms.